Do you remember the first time you ever got paid for comedy?
Ever got paid for it?
Yeah.
Somebody threw some money away. I'm trying to remember. It might have been a college. I'm sure it was a college. I'm sure I was like opening for somebody at a college for $50. Yeah, there was like the Sweetwater Inns where there's this chain of restaurants in Northern California, and they would always do stand-up. And it would always be after, after a game or during a game, and it was in a weird, it was always bad, and yeah, and you'd be out there with a guy who you knew his career was already over, but you weren't funny. It was just the whole idea was bad, but somebody wanted to give you $50 for it, so, yeah, and those were, those like days where you learn and you go out there and you realize, like, when you work in San Francisco and you start, everyone likes you, man. It's like a gigantic AA meeting. Same with Austin. Like, you can be weird and people kind of give you points, and they try and just, people here are very patient.
Yeah, bring them all in.
There we go. Good for him. At least he's indoors. You know what I mean? Like, people are nice. But in Northern California and outside, people are like, go to hell. Why'd we stop hockey for you? You shouldn't stop
outside
hockey
of San
for me.
Francisco, the rest of Northern California's very
Anywhere
different.
outside of the big areas, even like even as you cruise outside Los Angeles, like it just, people have lives that are more interesting, and so they're not glued to their TVs all the time, so they're just not as savvy with that kind of performance, especially if you think you're smart, which, that's not a strong way to start comedy.
So you started in San Francisco with a lot of other people who came up along with you.
Yes.
Did you have any inkling, or were you just like...
I think there was this sense that because we started at the end of the comedy boom, right? So the people you're talking about, and I mean, it's a massive group of people, right? As everyone converged on San Francisco, they'd go up, they'd do the comedy competition, they'd see, which was big then, and then they'd see, oh my God, look at how many comics are here, and look how many rooms are here. And so, you had your Pattons and your Blaines and your Bryans and Tom Rhodes, and Dana Gould was already living there, and like it was just this convergence. And then when people came, like Cross or Garofalo, they'd just stay for a couple weeks. We just all hung out. So we became sort of this big crew of people. And then Ben Stiller had his show, and he hired David and Janine to work on it. And then Dana went down there, and so we all just kind of converged on Los Angeles. So we were kind of a gang for a long time. And there was a lot of, I suppose, support. So, I think people got better or good, and yeah, you could tell some people were going to be, but surprising actually. It's actually surprising.
Yeah, what a great time to be doing comedy back then.
It was great.
Like after the boom, you probably had a lot of freedom.
Yeah, I think so. Again, there weren't like the comics that are out now are so smart and so savvy and so good because the comedy on TV is better or more, and they have a lot to learn. You know what I mean? Like, if your entry point was Dane and you jumped off from Dane, you're already starting at a high level of performance that's different, and then you just start to, if you go from Dane to Patton to Louis to whoever, to Kinane, like there's this, kids have a lot to learn, and there's also history right there on YouTube. So your chops are savvier. Where I just came from a theater background, and I was in a band. I wanted to be in the Replacements. Like I just wanted to be in a band. I didn't,
Yeah, you have like a music background.
That's all I thought I was going to do. I mean, you can have a background by just owning instruments, but it doesn't mean you're any good at it. And certainly not for here. But that's where I thought I was going. But I ended up in an improv group with Margaret Cho, and she said, try to do a set of stand-up, see if you like that. And I did. And that
Crazy.
Was it.
Who can say Margaret Cho told them to start?
Margaret Cho. Yeah, Margaret Cho.